This episode will be completely taken out of context. Welcome to the Fact Check This podcast.
All right, Fact Check This daily. And today I wasn't really sure. I had some stuff that I was thinking about talking about. I had one article that was kind of interesting about states possibly seceding to and joining Canada to avoid a Trump presidency. It seems kind of far-fetched, but also, you know, this is the kind of shit that the left, specifically that article was from Newsweek, is talking about since November. And I may do that one tomorrow. Actually, I probably will do that one tomorrow. But I had one pop up in my emails this morning from Time Magazine. Time Magazine has named their Person of the Year, and it will be Donald Trump for 2024. But interestingly enough, so every year, Time Magazine does the Person of the Year, right? And I think this is the first time that I've ever seen, on top of just the regular naming of the Person of the Year and the article where they, talk about who the Person of the Year is, they actually ran a completely separate article explaining why Donald Trump was named the Person of the Year, because obviously Time Magazine's larger audiences mostly leans more on the lefty side of things. So to like save from the screeching, I guess they ran an article explaining, just giving their justification for why Donald Trump was named their Person of the Year. So that's what we're going to read today. I love the picture too. 2024, the choice, Donald Trump. 3 days before Thanksgiving, the former and future president of the United States is sitting in the sun-filled dining room of his Florida home and private club. In the lavish reception area, more than a dozen people have been waiting for nearly 2 hours for Donald Trump to emerge. His picks for National Security Advisor, Special Envoy to the Middle East, Vice President, and Chief of Staff huddle nearby. All afternoon, Trump pipes music throughout the 1927 Oceanfront estate from a 2000-song playlist he curates. Sinead O'Connor's Nothing Compares to You, ABBA's The Winner Takes It All, James Brown's It's a Man's World. For 97 years, the editors of Time have been picking the Person of the Year, the individual who, for better or worse, did the most to shape the world and the headlines over the past 12 months. In many years, that choice is a difficult one. In 2024, it was not. Since he began running for president in 2015, perhaps no single individual has played a larger role in changing the course of politics and history than Trump. He shocked many by winning the White House in 2016, then led the U.S. through a chaotic term that included the first year of a pandemic as well as a period of nationwide protest. And that ended with his losing the election by 7 million votes and provoking the violent attack on the U.S. Capitol on January 6 of 2021. The smart money wagered that we had witnessed the end of Trump. If that moment marked Trump's nadir, today we are witnessing his apotheosis. On the cusp of his second presidency, all of us, from his most fanatical supporters to his most fervent critics, are living in the age of Trump. He dispatched his Republican rivals in near record time. For weeks, he campaigned largely from the New York courtroom where he would be convicted on 34 felony counts. His sole debate with President Joe Biden in June led to his opponent's eventual exit from the race. 16 days later, he survived an assassination attempt at a campaign rally. In the sprint that followed, he outlasted Vice President Kamala Harris, sweeping all 7 swing states and emerging from the election at the height of his popularity. Look what happened, Trump told his supporters at his election night victory speech. Isn't this crazy? He almost couldn't believe it himself. Trump has remade American politics in the process. He won by enlarging his base, seizing the frustration over rising prices, and benefiting from a global turn against incumbents. With those tailwinds, exit polls suggest that he won the largest percentage of Black Americans for a Republican since Gerald Ford, and the most Latino voters of any GOP nominee since George W. Bush. Suburban women, whose anger over restrictions to reproductive rights was thought to be a bulwark for Democrats, moved not away but toward him. He became the first Republican in 20 years to win more votes than the Democrat, with 9 out of 10 American counties increasing their support for Trump from 2020. Now we watch as members of Congress, international institutions, and global leaders once again align themselves with his whims. The carousel of Trump world characters spins anew. This time, we think we know what to expect. Supporters cheer even his promises to take revenge on his enemies and dismantle the government. In a matter of weeks, Trump will be returning to the Oval Office with his intentions clear: tariff imports, deport millions, and threaten the press. Put RFK Jr. in charge of vaccines, chance war with Iran. Anything can happen, he told us. Sitting with Time 3 weeks after the election, Trump was more subdued than when we visited him at Mar-a-Lago in March. He is happiest to be in a fight, and now that he has won, he sounded almost wistful, recognizing that he had run for office for the final time. It's sad in a way. It will never happen again, Trump told us. And while he's thinking about how that chapter has ended, for Americans and for the world, it is also the beginning of a new one. Trump is once again at the center of the world and in as strong a position as he ever has been. And then there's their little caveat about the Person of the Year. Over time, we've seen the Person of the Year franchise shift from Man of the Year to its current designation. From the period between the world wars, defined by leaders like Mohandas Gandhi and Wallace Simpson, to the first quarter of the 21st century, an era marked by the tremendous changes ushered in by a technological revolution. Although the American presidency has evolved across these eras, its influence has not diminished. Today, we are witnessing a resurgence of populism, a widening mistrust in the institutions that defined the last century, and an eroding faith that liberal values will lead to better lives for most people. Trump is both agent and beneficiary of all of it. For marshaling a comeback of historic proportions, for driving a once-in-a-generation political realignment, and for reshaping the American presidency and altering America's role in the world, Donald Trump is Time's 2024 Person of the Year. All of this coming from Time magazine is interesting, especially these the acknowledgement that there is widening mistrust of the institutions, that there is eroding faith in liberal values. To have Time write an article like this, and I mean, it's interesting. I haven't. I noticed this while I was driving this morning, so taking the kids to and from school. So I didn't get a chance to sit down and look at any of the response. And I need to go through like Twitter and the different social media and see what the reaction to Time naming Trump as Person of the Year has been, because I'm absolutely positive that nobody on the left is going to read that article. Nobody on the left is going to pay attention to anything about this other than that Trump is the Person of the Year, even though he's the worst person on the planet and literally Hitler and blah, 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 so on and so forth. To read what they're writing in this article is fascinating. To see that kind of a turn from Time and from some other mainstream outlets as well. We had Joe Scarborough and whatever his co-host, I can't ever remember her fucking name. Whatever his co-host name was, going to Mar-a-Lago to have a sit down with Trump to talk about like his incoming administration and how the media can get along with and work with Trump going forward. Like stuff like that is impressive. And then of course what happened in the aftermath of that was the left just completely turned on Joe Scarborough and the other chick, and their ratings tanked and they called them traitors and everything else. It's like they have not learned fucking anything at all. So that's going to make the next 4 years a lot of fun. And honestly, it's probably going to make the next 8 to 12 to possibly even 20 years very interesting and a whole lot of fun. So, yeah, we'll see how this goes. Inauguration Day will be epically important to history. And we'll see what happens after inauguration with executive orders that Trump will start putting in and the J6 pardons and everything else. We're about a month away from shit really getting fun, and I cannot wait. That'll do it for today, and I will be back tomorrow to talk about the possibility of some leftist states joining Canada and seceding. Good luck with that. We'll talk about that article from Newsweek tomorrow, though. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you then. Later.